So, good afternoon. I'm here again to present another study of Project GUHeat entitled The Thermal Effects of Urban Greenings in an Urban Microclimate in Quezon City. So, let me show you a picture of Quezon City decades back and at present. So, we can see the improvements in this area na makikita po natin na wala na pong ganitong area sa Quezon City na ganitong kalaking open space. So, the level of urbanization in the Philippines increased by 5.9% in the span of just 5 years. Imagine, within the span of 5 years, ganun na po kalaki yung tinaas ng urbanization rate in the Philippines. And Metro Manila, bilang considered as an urban area as a whole po siya, the urbanization rate is 100%, and these values pertains to the percentage of the population residing in urban areas. And as of 2019, it was published that over half of population now residing in urban areas here in the country. And imagine, habang nag-i-increase po yung population natin, nagkakaroon ng maraming demand, and then nag-lead po to sa mas maraming urban developments. So, another news last 2012 wherein it was stated that ang Metro Manila ay considered as an urban heat island. And in my presentation earlier, makita natin na the hotspots ay nakakumpol dito sa buong NCR. Hot and hotter in Metro Manila, and ito po yung highest recorded air temperature in Metro Manila in May, which was at 37.3 degrees Celsius. And masasabi po natin based sa presentations earlier na ang init na nararamdaman sa Metro Manila nating mga residente ng Metro Manila ay hindi lamang galing sa heat from the sun, but also nararamdaman din natin ang heat na galing sa mga buildings, houses, and roads, especially in the dry season, in the hot season. So, what is the role of the vegetation as UHI mitigation measure? Vegetation counteracts the effects of UHI by the process of vegetative cooling. Ang paulit-ulit po nating sinasabi na evapotranspiration to highlight the role of vegetation in mitigating UHI. This cooling is the process na nag-evaporate yung water from the leaves through the plant during the photosynthesis. Also, vegetation provides shade and moisture to keep urban areas cool. So, we have two study areas. The first one is in Timog Avenue and Tomas Avenue. This area is a part of the Quezon City Central Business District, wherein it houses various restaurants, bars, karaoke, and hotels. It is a commercial district, and the model area is 20.67 hectares. So, ang second study site po natin is in Visayas Avenue, which is one of the major roads connected to the elliptical road. Also, isa po siya sa ilan lamang na major roads na dominated by tree cover. So, we have a representative of a commercial or urbanized district in Quezon City and an area which is tree dominated. So, para po makapag-produce kami ng model in those sites, ay nagkaroon muna kami ng drone survey at annotation fieldwork, wherein nililist down namin through an app, a mobile app, yung mga materials and measurements na nakikita namin on the ground. Also, ang mga kailangan nating layers para makapag-produce ng output ay buildings, trees, and vegetation surfaces. And it includes the materials and measurements of the buildings and the trees, including the height, the ground diameter, and etc. These are the layers from the drone survey. We have the orthophoto na ginamit po natin sa pag-digitize ng mga buildings, sa pag-validate ng results ng annotation fieldwork. We also derive the surface height para malaman yung heights of the buildings and other features on the ground. So, for the Visayas Avenue, ito po yung itsura ng model natin. The circles are the trees in the area, and then ito po yung mga buildings. This is the model in 3D. This is in Timog, Tomas, the 3D model of Timog, Tomas. So, for the scenario 1, sa model, i-simulate po natin yung current scenario of both sides. So first, dito muna po tayo sa Visayas Avenue. So these are the layers from the fieldwork. And ito po yung ortho or the drone photo. And makita po natin yung mga materials na present in the area. In roads, we have asphalt and concrete. For the buildings, for the roofs and wall materials, we have concrete, bricks, tiles, iron, and steel. So, for the results of the current scenario ay yun po yung actual na scenario on the ground. Kung ano po yung itsura ng Visayas Avenue, yun po yung pinasok natin sa model. And this is the result of the current scenario wherein nag-peak yung temperature niya at 1 p.m. Also, kung makikita nyo po, hati yung area natin into 2 due to the limitation of the machine used, since mabigat po mag-process ng ganitong data. And the highest mean temperature is at 1 p.m. which is at 31.69 degrees Celsius. So, sa scenario 2 of Visayas Avenue, ay gusto natin malaman kung ano ba ang impact ng trees along the center island and sidewalk. Since alam natin na this road is dominated by tree cover, gusto natin malaman ano ba yung effect ng mga trees doon. Ano ba yung nako-contribute niya sa lugar na yun. So, ito po yung graphs showing the mean air temperature of both scenarios. Blue one is the actual scenario, the current setting on the ground, and then the orange ones ay yun po yung values of mean air temperature nung inalis natin yung mga trees along the sidewalks and the center island. And generally po, they have the same trend wherein nag-peak from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. nag-i-increase siya, and then bumababa siya up until 6 p.m. Visayas 1 ay yung upper region, and Visayas 2 yun po yung lower portion of Visayas Avenue. They have the highest temperatures both at 1 p.m. and Sa bawat oras po ng simulation ay nag-increase nung inalisan natin ng trees. So, para po makita natin yung difference between the two scenarios. In the upper portion, dito po at 9 a.m., around 0.7 degrees Celsius yung tinaas ng temperature, and at 11 a.m., it was as high as 1.06 degrees Celsius. And dito po sa Visayas 2, which is in the lower portion, the highest change in mean air temperature was also as at 11 a.m., which is 1.26 degrees Celsius. Mas malaki po yung effect dito sa lower portion by only 0.1 degrees Celsius. So, it is to quantify the change in the mean temperature. So, the removal of trees in Visayas Avenue had an effect of 0.58 to 1.06 degrees Celsius in the upper portion and 0.64 degrees Celsius to 1.26 degrees Celsius in the southern portion. So, tingnan po natin closely yung isang portion ng Visayas Avenue. So, ito po yung center island, and ito yung differential map of Visayas Avenue at 1 p.m. Meaning, pinag-subtract po natin yung map from the second scenario at actual scenario. At makikita natin yung difference in the center island, which is around 1 degree Celsius in this particular region. But the increase in temperature is also evident in the nearby concrete open spaces, which is as high as 1.7 degrees Celsius only in this portion. But in some areas, may nag-increase in temperature of around 2.33 degrees Celsius. So, yung effect ng pagtanggal ng trees po natin ay hindi lang evident yung effect sa center island, but also sa surrounding spaces. Next, we move to the second study area, which is in Timog, Tomas. So, we also model the current setup or the actual setting of Timog, Tomas. This shows the surface cover of Timog, Tomas, na yung roads po natin ay covered with asphalt and concrete, and same as Visayas Avenue, the buildings materials including the roofs and walls are concrete, bricks, tiles, steel, and iron. So sa scenario 2, nagpasok tayo ng isa pang GUHI mitigating measure, which is green walls and green roofs, meaning vegetation on the wall and vegetation sa roofing. So, urban vegetation is considered as one of the most effective measures to mitigate GUHI effect. Yung pag-integrate ng green surfaces in the urban environment. Also, these are just few or some of the benefits of the vertical greening systems in an urban setting. 1, it is to address the problem in limited space for horizontal urban greenery. Since sa urban setting ay kukonti na yung space para makapagtayo ng green parks or green spaces or makapagplant ng trees, these vertical greening systems address the problem of the limitation of space. Also, reduce energy performance of the cooling systems. Next is to reduce stormwater runoff. And lastly, to mitigate UHI. So, this is the second scenario of Timog Tomas. We can call it the green building scenario, but only 85 out of 328 features ang nakapag-incorporate ng green walls at green roofs sa Timog Tomas. This is because we consider the existing building structure na kaya i-support yung green walls and green roofs. We choose the buildings that have solid walls and solid roofs. So, here are the results of the simulation, and these are the differential maps of Timog Tomas wherein sinubtract natin yung green building scenario at current scenario. So, green regions up to blue regions ay yung mga areas na nag-cool down. And we found out that in Timog Tomas, at 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., naging evident yung cooling effect ng green buildings, which is the green walls and green roofs. Dito lang natin sa mga oras na to na-observe yung cooling effect nung pag-install ng mga vegetated walls and roofs. But we can also see that the entire site cooled down at 3 p.m. here and 4 p.m. So, we can also say that the cooling effect was strongest in this area, here and here, dahil siya po yung may pinakamalaking temperature change sa lahat ng oras. It is along Tomas Morato Avenue. Also at 4 p.m., nandito po yung strongest effect, which is around 1.65 degrees Celsius. Also, ito po yung differential maps showing the difference from 10 meters above the ground from the 2 meters, or which is the near surface. So we can conclude that green walls also affect the vertical distribution of air temperature with a maximum value of 2.5 degrees Celsius, which is evident at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 noon, and up to 2 p.m. Here are the hours that had the highest change in temperature between the 10 meter above the surface and near the surface. So to summarize our presentations, here are some of the recommendations and findings. 1. Considering the continuous increasing rate of urbanization in the country, several mitigation methods should be adopted in urban areas to address the effects of UHIs. Also, urban greening is an effective strategy to mitigate urban heat islands. Next, conversion of green spaces into built-up areas should be regulated. Next, we should consider the installation of green walls and roofs in areas with limited space for horizontal greenings. Next, in larger areas that can accommodate trees with bigger crowns, we should consider placing trees with bigger crowns enough for shading, especially along the wide roads. Also, it is also recommended to apply light-colored paints in the city's infrastructures and reduce impermeable covers. And lastly, design urban layouts to allow for better ventilation through the streets and the buildings. So that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you.